Hello, welcome Diablo 4 community to another episode of Diablo 4 Campfire Chats. My name is Adam Fletcher. I am the Director of Community here for Diablo. Of course, I'm joined by two very familiar faces here. Mr. Joe Shelley, Game Director of Diablo 4, Mr. Joe Pipora, who is the Associate Game Director for Diablo 4. We have a quick stream to go over some stuff that's coming down the road here in the next couple weeks, which includes Abattoir Zir and Midwinter Blight. So lots to talk about. But what's kind of cool about this stream is that it is our final stream of the year, the final stream of 2023.
We're closing it out.
We're closing it out, and this is actually it's been a year now since we started these streams. We started with Diablo 4 developer updates on, was it mid-December last year, I believe. So we're hitting a 1-year anniversary now. And of course, on that debut stream, I had these two wonderful gentlemen who joined us as well. So yeah, we have it's been a year. It's crazy.
We've all grown so much.
I know. We went from hand models to holding maps and things like that
that was fun.
Campfire Chats, which we even brought to BlizzCon, which was actually really cool last month. And fun. Of course, now we're here to talk about Abattoir Zir. But before we actually do jump into that, I know there is a very popular question within chat and a very popular question within the community that we want to address before we jump in, which is Diablo 4 bringing pay for power to the game?
Yeah, no. We're not. No. We've been very clear about this throughout, and I think very consistent about it, and that continues to be true. And that also applies to things like addressing stash, making sure that players have enough stash space to store things. We talked about this at BlizzCon. We talked about getting aspects out of your stash inventory. We had a stash tab in Season 2. We think that having enough space for a regular player to feel like they are good in terms of being able to store the things they need is baseline functionality. Yeah. And we have no plans to add any pay for power to the game.
Yeah, it's been a very popular question this week, and of course, we've been seeing it a lot in chat, even as we were in our countdown. We wanted to make sure we talked about it early with everyone to reassure people that, no, that is not the plan for Diablo 4. And players are still going to be able to enjoy it without the need of needing to pay for any type of power or anything like that. So, and there won't be any of that in there. So, great to hear. And I know that we have a lot to talk about today. The first thing we did want to mention, though, is actually Midwinter Blight, which is an event that is actually going to be coming up here on December 12th. It is our holiday event. It's actually our first holiday event. It's funny because people have asked us about, hey, what about Halloween? We kind of remind people that like Season of Blood is kind of Halloween. it's very much focused in around
it's got
vampires.
It's got skeletons. I mean, it's got all the same stuff you expect to get from a Halloween.
Exactly. Yeah. So Midwinter Blight coming December 12th is our holiday event that we talked about and we announced at BlizzCon. Yeah. But we wanted to talk a little bit more about that today. Joe, can you give us a little bit more info? Joe P.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Midwinter Blight, as I know that people got a chance to see some of the video stuff before, and like we talked about at BlizzCon, but Midwinter Blight is obviously our first true and proper holiday event where we're going to be Sanctuary in Diablo 4. In it, we're going to be visiting the Fractured Peaks again, where a horrible storm has descended upon the people of the here we are has descended upon the people of the Fractured Peaks. We're going to be introduced to a new character named Gillian, who's a bard. Gillian is here trying to rouse the spirits of the people of Kyovashad, trying to help them work together to push back against a new threat that's emerging from the hills and mountains nearby, coming down from the glacier and down from the mountainous peaks nearby.
So, Joe, can I trust this guy though? Because I don't have a good track record with musicians in Diablo 4.
I think that anyone that plays music in the Fractured Peaks is generally trustworthy. Okay. So I think that you're going to be...
He's looking a little sketch there.
I don't know. I trusted all those folks in the past.
I don't think that's fair to those of us who boast to have nice facial hair. I think that Gillian is a perfectly trustworthy person. So with that in mind, so Gillian's there trying to rouse people together, and they're going to be sending the heroes of Sanctuary off into the Fractured Peaks to fight against this new threat, the Red Cloak Horror and his minions. We're out there kind of causing great mayhem. They're kind of erecting these disgusting snow sculptures out of discarded parts out throughout the environment. Yeah, here is a group of the Red Cloak Horror's minions just kind of like running around. They're very, very dangerous creatures. But they're also fun. They're kind of like, they're having a good time with it. Like they're enjoying the season. They're in it for the spirit of it, which is just basically causing a lot of mayhem and destruction and pain for the people. So you get a chance to feel a little bit of that as you're going through the event. Here is our main boy, the Red Cloak Horror himself. This is going to be your opportunity to go and fight this boss. Will occasionally pop into the content. You'll get good rewards from him as you're kind of progressing through the event. And you will take all of these like trophies and things you're collecting from all of his minions, and kind of as you're engaging in various events and saving people in Sanctuary, able to bring these back to Kyovashad, be able to unlock some really cool cosmetics.
Awesome, yeah, and I know there's even a few like kind of exclusive things for beyond the cosmetics for this event, such as we have an elixir, for instance, that actually grants a little bit more experience.
Yeah. There's an elixir that grants 10% extra experience when you're drinking it. It also gives you other effects when you're active inside the Fractured Peaks, but you can also just use it for the XP if you want.
And I will note the XP actually does work even outside of Fractured Peaks. So it's like, hey, it's an extra bonus for players if they're looking to grab a little bit of extra experience. And then there is also, for this event, a new like offensive aspect.
Yeah, there's a new seasonal aspect you get to play with. It kind of like dovetails with some of the new shrines and things that we have throughout the environment. So there's a lot of fun stuff for players to engage with throughout the season. And then again, a lot of really cool cosmetics to collect.
Yeah, so it's a lot of cool stuff coming in Midwinter Blight.
And these, the things, some folks might be wondering if the things like the elixirs and the aspects persist after Midwinter Blight ends, and they do, right?
Yep. They do, yeah. They will persist after the event ends, but you'll only be able to collect them now during this period of time.
Exactly. So like stock up. There you go. Yeah. Stock up for the elixirs themselves, and of course, Midwinter Blight is on December 12th. So make sure to log in, and it'll be running through the holidays for players to actually jump in and check out from that end. But the next other big thing...
Yeah, that's like 2 weeks away.
Exactly.
What's happening next week?
Yeah, what's happening next week? So we're actually going to go back to the week prior to December 12th, and on December 5th,
as you would naturally do. You naturally work out 2 weeks, then come back a week as you're talking through things. Yeah.
Organization. But yeah, we're actually going to move to December 5th, which will be the Abattoir of Zir. This is a new endgame mode that we're actually adding to Diablo 4. It's for a limited time only. It's a seasonal event specifically that we announced at BlizzCon. And we are actually, for the first time on one of our streams, we're going to have a live run-through of the Abattoir Zir, starring, you won't be able to see this wonderful man on camera, but he is mic'd up because we wanted to hear him struggle. That is Filthy Rich. He's actually a senior community manager on the community team here on Diablo. You may have recognized his name on our forums, posting patch notes, hotfix notes, etc. Rich is amazing. And he is actually going to be showcasing a little bit of Abattoir Zir for us. Okay.
Right off
you can pet the dog in Diablo 4.
When we practiced this, the dog wasn't there.
in case it wasn't clear, that is still a feature that exists in the game.
Yeah.
Say hi, Rich.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. There's a spin of friendship. Okay, so we are. Yeah, it's funny. It's like last stream of the year, and we're doing it live. This is fun.
Now, and when we say live, we're talking about this is a live, like he's playing for real right now.
Yes.
That is what I was referencing, but I wasn't clear. That's true.
But it is on a dev server.
Yep.
So we won't run into other players, and it is on a dev build, so there might be some debug text or
unless
other
the dev
stuff.
just happens to run it through, who's also on this server.
Could happen,
but
yeah.
But
Yeah, you might see some weird stuff, folks. And if people,
I'm fearful we just sent out this megaphone to the team running over the ridge.
Well, anyway, this is the first time we've done something like that.
That's absolutely right. And if you complain about it, we just won't do it again. And wouldn't you rather just see really cool stuff? I bet you would. So let's see.
All right. So, Rich, what build are you going to be running here for us today?
Yeah, so on my side, I'm actually going to be running a popular build, the Ball Lightning build. I'm going to wait for Joe to kind of explain some of the earlier stuff, basically a lot of the gameplay loop stuff. But pretty familiar for those who've been watching a lot of the endgame material for Ball Lightning. Specifically for this, I really focused around like survivability, mobility, with a sprinkle of DPS. But I think before we get into
With
it,
a sprinkle.
sprinkle
Yeah,
of
ball
DPS.
lightning
You talk
known
about
for
ball
its
lightning.
low damage output capacity. Absolutely. So Rich here. So let's say we're talking about the Abattoir of Zir. I know we talked about this before, but for the uninitiated, this could be a new endgame dungeon content experience for players to engage with that really unlocks after you finish the season journey of Season 2. So if you really want to go and start going through this content, you'll need to have done all the things in the season beforehand to be able to gain access to the very first Blood Forge sigil you're able to craft here at the Occultist. Now, once you've taken this sigil, this is going to open up a new dungeon space that's going to be more challenging than a Tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon. Now, there are 25 tiers of the Abattoir of Zir for players to engage with, and each of these does get progressively much more challenging as you step up. Much more challenging than, say, going from like a tier 75 Nightmare Dungeon to a tier 76 Nightmare Dungeon. Going from a tier 1 to a tier 2 to a tier 3, these are really significant steps by comparison. So, and we want this because we're giving, Season 2's been a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun playing even my Firewall Sork right now. We want to make sure that there's a really good place for players to be able to bring all of this power they've been collecting from whether they're farming Duriel for Uber Uniques or just they get a really, really great combination of vampiric powers. I want to have a place where they can go to really show off and really push hard into a type of content. Mm-hmm. That's the focus here.
Yeah, and we mentioned you mentioned just now that the avatar requires that you've completed the season journey,
yes.
Right? And so the season journey, the last step of the season journey requires you can skip two of the objectives, but there's still difficult objectives like kill Duriel, even if you skip Echo of Lilith and the tier 90 Nightmare Dungeon requirement. Mm-hmm. And that's not arbitrary. That's because characters who aren't able to do that really are not ready for Abattoir of Zir. So
yep.
I know there are a lot of folks who are level 100 out there who maybe haven't completed this yet. We've got this weekend coming up. Yes. So get your season journey finished.
Exactly, and if players still haven't completed it by this weekend or when Abattoir of Zir actually hits, they can still complete it anytime when the seasonal event is actually going on and jump in even afterwards. So if you've got plans this weekend or something like that and can't finish it, don't worry, it's okay. You can still do that over the next couple of weeks because this event will be going through January or the beginning of January itself.
Right.
So
You still have time.
You still have time. So I know Rich here has actually, as we were talking, spawned a level 1 Abattoir using the sigils himself right there. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good opportunity for him to kind of jump in.
So Rich has done a little of this content on his character here already. He's got a little bit of a preview of how it's going to play, how it's going to feel to play through. But I think it's going to be pretty fun. Let's see how he performs.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I did want to address on that I saw from chat is that character that I have is as close as I can be to being maxed out. Because this is trying to be as relatively close to what I've been practicing on, which has been the tier level 100 Nightmare Dungeons. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a few things that I wanted to call out as well. On the actual sigil itself, I think one difference here is that I'm not aware of what afflictions I'm going to encounter in this battle. So I think capping things or getting as close to as capped I can for things like my armor, my magic resist, my damage, and all those. Just really trying to be ready and prepared for any surprises.
Yeah, I know, Rich, because you've played through Abattoir a little bit, you've built a little bit more survival on your Sork here, as opposed to completely glass cannon. He's a little bit more prepared than I think some other people would be. But I know with us showcasing here a level 1 Abattoir, kind of at least showcases a little bit. How would you guys compare this to a Nightmare Dungeon in terms of tier difficulty, or would it be similar to a Nightmare Dungeon in terms of tier with a level 1?
Yeah, the level 1 Abattoir of Zir is kind of close to what a level 104 might be. That's kind of where things start, and then things step up from there. Now, you'll see here right off the bat, there's some big differences, right? On the right-hand side, you see that there's a bar that's being filled. Abattoir of Zir runs are really races against time. So Rich here is really focused on killing creatures as fast as he can in an effort to kind of beat that timer and summon the boss at the end of the experience. Loot's not dropping for him as he's kind of rolling through this thing. We don't want to slow you down. We want to keep you killing as fast as you can to show off your ability to kind of like survive in these environments. Now, as we step up, one thing we think is interesting about this is we actually taking one step back actually. Some of the things that Joe's talked about when we were at BlizzCon was our commitment to end game content and itemization, rewards, and things. The things we want to do to continue to make the game better. Abattoir of Zir is like it's designed explicitly to appeal to players who are at this stage of the gameplay experience, and we're going to be using it to kind of like think about and iterate upon more features like this we want to bring out in the future. That's one of the reasons why it's a seasonal event. It's a fun experience for season 2, but we'll have slightly different ideas in the future of how we want to kind of create similar content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and I know we can see Rich. By the way, Rich has been so lucky with shrines every single time we've watched him go through.
Yeah.
He consistently gets artillery shrines, which I'm just gonna claim I don't know, community manager.
Community manager RNG. Yes.
Yeah. That's a big part of it.
I'm going to be 100% honest with everyone here and those watching. I went super tanky because I think one of the nightmares that I would have is actually to die in the middle of a demo.
We'll make that happen. I promise. But I know with level 1, as you can see, Rich is well ahead of time, so he's clearly geared out and ready for a level 1. But at the end of these abattoirs, we'll see here in a second as he gets to time, we do have a little bit of a kind of an end period for players, a little bit more of a challenge towards the end.
Yeah. So and one thing that's making this particularly interesting is with the vampiric powers in season 2, with Rich running Metamorphosis regularly. I mean, he's basically got permanent unstoppable. As he's just kind of using Flicker Staff to keep resetting that unstable currents, and he is just keeping that 4-second unstoppable uptime. And he summoned the boss, and wow, that was spicy right off the bat. So every time you manage to clear one of these levels, you're going to summon 3 Bloodseekers, who are pretty strong. Who are going to have the affixes of their own that you're going to have to go ahead and clear through. The timer is still ticking, but Rich has got a really good, healthy lead on the timer right now, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a question of whether or not he gets spiked by something he didn't expect. But with the amount of barrier you should be able to pack with your Sork at this point, I don't think that should be a problem.
I don't know.
This is an unfavorable spawn.
Yeah, I don't like this spot.
You're in some tight corners here.
I think in every single practice this has happened, but what I'm feeling lucky about is that I don't have a suppressor, which is definitely a nightmare for me and my ball lightning. But yes, I'll pass it back over to you because there's actually some pretty cool stuff to call out over here.
Yeah. Okay. So upon finishing your first run through the Abattoir of Zir, you're going to earn the special glyph associated with the seasonal event, which is the Tears of Blood glyph that you can see here. Now, Rich has already spent some XP on this, upgrading it before, but this is an extraordinarily powerful multiplicative bonus glyph you get to kind of slot in. This has got 200 levels associated with it for you to upgrade through over the course of time. It starts out at the size of a tier 15 normal glyph, normal rare glyph. So it is extremely strong right off the bat. So you're going to be able to use this to kind of help you get through some of the more difficult tiers as you go deeper and deeper into the experience. And there's one other really neat thing about this as well. So this experience, the Tears of Blood glyph itself has a lot of Paragon glyph XP that you need in order to upgrade it as you continue to go on through the experience. And one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that if you're at this stage, if you want to experiment with other glyphs, you can still you get giant amounts of XP from finishing Abattoir of Zir level.
From tier 1, it's all 1,000 XP.
From a tier 1, you get 1,000. So if you want to use this as an opportunity to kind of rank up some of those other glyphs you've got because you want to play with other things for other builds and other things, here's an opportunity for you to kind of go and quickly level up a bunch of those other glyphs that you have. In addition to not taking too much time away from your Tears of the Blood if you're trying to keep pace with that. But we think that's an extra fun little bit. But yeah, Tears of Blood glyph, super powerful for players to be able to engage with. Again, it's only here for the season, and it'll be retired at the end of that season.
Yeah, and we just saw Rich, of course, churn through a level 1 pretty easily. I struggled a little at the end, but
there was a little struggle. I got a little nervous.
It wasn't too bad. But I know, Rich, what key or what sigils do you have here?
So I think what I did over there was a sigil 1. I think what we were talking about was trying to make an engagement moment. basically by having chat almost pick the challenge ahead. So what I've pre-crafted beforehand is a 2, a 6, as well as a 10. Funny enough, I created backups for this because, like, hey, I might die. But I think it's just one of those things where I would love to reserve the 10 and beyond levels for a later moment.
Yes.
But Adam, you had a great idea.
And as a reminder, like tiers for abattoirs here go up to 25.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there are a significant amount of tiers, and they, of course, go up in difficulty by a pretty, like, almost an exponential amount as you're going from tier to tier. But be curious, okay, all right, like, you already asked the chat, and the chat is already going, like, screaming 10.
Yeah.
So they just want you to die.
Okay, we said, like, we're going to let chat choose 2, 6, or 10. We'll see what they say. I'm like, it's going to be 10. They're going to absolutely want to see 10.
They're going to want to see 10. So, Rich, take us into a tier 10, and let's see how he does. Now, are you going to adjust builds a little bit here?
You have 4 questions, too. I just want to call it.
I mean, a few things here, I think, for the players at home is that, obviously, you saw that the previous one, I was geared up to be a little bit more tanky because the last thing that I want to do is embarrass myself and die on there. But I think what Joe and team can do is also explain, like, how some of the scaling works as I go up. So I think I'll just go in. I think what I'm trying to balance out now is just try to add a little bit more damage output by sacrificing some of my tankiness, just because I anticipate that the higher HP is going to be a challenge, and I don't want to lose to the time, and I actually want to see how far I can progress. So let me activate this.
I was like, you went back in without activating.
You know, the nerves. It's the nerves.
Yeah, to Rich's point here, I mean, it's not easy to play games on stream, right?
No, it's not.
No, so this is why we're going to have him narrate a full Romeo and Juliet play to us as he's playing to ensure
Full color commentary.
Full concentration on this.
No, so to Rich's point earlier about how the scaling works. So as we were experimenting with this content, one of the things we discovered pretty quickly is we just didn't want to continue to scale monster damage up, in a really, really significant way as you're kind of going through this content. We really want to focus a lot more on monster health scaling as you go. Because we quickly get to a point where, like, any bat that kind of, like, clips you, which is basically just, completely ice you unless you're invulnerable at that point, and it just makes it a less fun experience overall. So we wanted to make sure it was much more about, like, can you beat that timer? Can you survive the bosses at the end? Not as much about, like, damage gets so high over the course of time that there's no opportunity for different classes to really be able to perform, right?
Yeah, and the Tears of Blood glyph really is going to increase your damage output.
Yes.
Right, so leveling that up.
Did you actually have your Tears for Blood glyph equipped?
Oh, is it equipped?
So I did not, and I think one of the things that I wanted to do, I mean, for me, I think as I've been going in and testing it, like, I think it's actually been a pretty cool experience to see, like, how it's been with and without. I think just exploring a little bit more into it as well, like, while my Paragon board is optimized for what I have here, it's definitely opening up a lot more. Oh, hold on a second.
Also, you didn't replenish your potions before you went
I tried
in
to
here.
warn him.
So
It's about. This is for the
mistakes
stream.
were made.
This is for the
stream.
Oh, I see. You're
This
trying
is
to
for
give
the
yourself a
stream,
disadvantage
right?
for clicks. I see.
This is for the stream.
We got more max potions.
Yeah,
That's true.
So
You did that.
Rich did not do himself a few favors here. One, he did not replenish his potions, and then 2, he did not equip a Tears for Blood glyph.
Yeah, you are falling behind that timer pretty quickly at this point.
because he wanted to be a show-off and
Yes.
is not showing off.
Well, it's interesting to see how valuable, you were talking about this earlier, how valuable the vampiric powers are in this content as well.
Yeah.
Really configuring those.
Yeah, I mean, if you're permanently unstoppable, like, Snake Family is a lot less dangerous to deal with across the board. Like, you don't have to deal with that, like, that charging stun. You don't have to deal with you don't have to deal with the paralyze. Like, there's you have some advantages. I think it's funny that we got snakes randomly twice in a row.
Yeah.
But hey, that's the nature of live gameplay.
And I will say,
It's not just snakes though. You can see other things in this.
We're
Right,
nearing
yeah,
the
that's a
end,
great point.
by the way.
Each time you enter Abattoir of Zir, you're going to have different monsters, different tile sets, different layouts.
And I think the big thing here is that my eye is definitely drawn into the timer. Compared to how it was in the tier 1, I'm definitely not taking out as many monsters as I need to get the potions, and that timer is really hurting my feelings right now.
that and
Everything seems
I
fine
will
here.
say, like, the normal progression for players will be
Oh my gosh.
Oh, well then. That ends the story of Rich and
Did my
Abattoir.
best.
I will say that the normal progression for players is not to go immediately to a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Chat deemed that you needed to go to a 10 immediately.
Yeah.
And Rich deemed that he did not need to actually equip his Tears of Blood glyph.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But this takes us to an interesting point. What happens when you die in it?
Yeah, so when you die in the video game, you die in the video game. So actually, you're going to lose your run because you have no respawns available when you go through a Abattoir of Zir run. So you'll have to go back. You'll have to make another key. That progress is going to be lost. So
Yeah. And yeah, so just a word for warning for like even like a double like I guess penalty for hardcore players. Lose your character and you lose your run. Lose your run.
Huge double penalty. Huge double
one
penalty.
major penalty and one small one. So yeah.
I think I do want to just follow up on the mention earlier of what happens at the very end. I think the trying to return back to the adventure, but being surprised by this is something that we wanted to call out as well.
Yeah, so like basically the portal's gonna be there while the event is active, but unless you've actually used a sigil to kick it off, you're basically just gonna be able to come to this like kind of broken edifice here, and there's nowhere else to go.
I'd be curious, like if you are in here with like a party, can you revive other party members as if they happen to die?
When a player goes down, the run is over.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. There we go. Yeah. So I know there's a few people asking questions like, hey, if I'm running this with a group, if anyone dies there, it's a done run. Mm-hmm. So it is a little punishing, but at the same time, it is endgame content.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, sure. I mean, so one of the things really interesting about having content like this at the end game is we do want to make sure that there are lots of ways, as you've seen in Season 2, to like farm up different gear that you want and make sure that you can get your character to be really, really powerful. But then when you get into the next tier of content, like, do we want you to continually always get more gear to always replace the gear that you have, right? So the Tears of Blood glyph is an example of us like kind of experimenting with different ideas of progression for players and see how these things feel. Like we want to make sure that there's always more things you want to go try to do, and always more things for you to go push for your character. But how much you have to like reintegrate, aspects of your build every time you like kind of go through a content tier feels like something we talk about quite a bit.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm really excited about for this is, so Tears of Blood is going to be like really, really powerful. Again, 200 tiers, multiplicative damage increases. It continues to scale up as you go. It's very, very strong. It's going to be fun to see players who are able to see how far people can eschew that, like not use the Tears of Blood glyph, and see how far they're able to actually get into the content. So I think that's going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm hoping players end up, sending us tweets on social sorry, it's not tweets anymore, X posts.
Yeah, posts and reposts
on social, or posting on Reddit and forums of like how far they can actually progress. It'll be really cool to see where the community kind of lands and where some of our more hardcore players end up landing as well, especially hardcore characters, people that really risk everything to try out this content. So there we go. So that's Abattoir Zir. Abattoir Zir, again, hits on December 5th. It'll be with our next patch. Next week. And and that will be next week. We actually plan on having patch notes available on diablo4.com tomorrow. So it will be available for people to check out patch notes for that update hitting next week. So thank you again, Rich.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for sacrificing your dev build character for this, which is nearly the same as your live build.
Yes. This build I wanted to make as close as I can to in terms of a one-to-one representation of what I have on retail. I know for a lot of the people at home, it's important to try to have and see and play with something that's relevant to them. So yeah, just tried to do that. Excited to see everybody online. Let's farm up. Let's do this. See how high you can get.
Get your season journey done. Because that is the requirement for jumping into Abattoir Zir and checking it out. Cool. So I know one thing that we do want to talk about as well that we had mentioned on social, and this is just a quick mention from us and a quick update from us, and it is around itemization. So one thing we do want to show off, though, is we all have, well, I'm not zipped up. I'm wearing my Diablo 4 bomber here. Oops. There we go. But
Doing some extra hand
But
modeling.
yeah, we do have these really fancy little shirts here.
Gee, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I feel like you guys even remember the cue.
I remember.
Yeah, look at this. Yeah.
It's this is a play off
go.
of Adam Jackson. Made this wonderful saying before. Damage on Tuesdays.
Damage on Tuesdays.
And yeah,
It felt appropriate for discussing
we
itemization.
felt like this was an appropriate time to show off.
We were like,
these
we're gonna take.
jackets
Well, what we'll do is
specifically.
we'll take the jackets off while Rich is playing. We won't forget to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, we were supposed to do that.
We were
Yeah.
supposed to do that to have this be like a
That
better
would've been
bit.
a
So
good plan.
instead,
That would've been a
everyone just got
funnier
to watch us awkwardly take off hoodies and jackets. So, but
I think the people loved it, obviously.
yes, and I do want to give a shout out to Ricky on our art team.
Richie
Richie on our art team, who actually ended up making these amazing Damage
Yeah,
on
I love
Tuesday
the
shirts.
graphic design on
Yeah,
this.
it's really
that's
cool.
really
Little rogue shooting through Tuesday.
Yeah.
But itemization, I know we wanted to talk really quickly about that, and Joe.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot to talk about. At BlizzCon, Mr. Shelley himself got a chance to kind of talk about a few things that we've got coming. We have going on. We talked about some of the problems that we see with itemization out there today. You know, I think just to kind of reiterate some of those points, as players are going through the experience, you know, it's challenging the amount of mental bandwidth you have to use to process all of the items that you're collecting. It's difficult to find upgrades because there's a really low chance for you to get like a perfect rare roll. And generally in ARPGs, it's okay for it to be a low chance for the roll to be perfect, but there's such a high degree of variability in items right now as they stand, where it's like usually it's like, okay, well, this item is 80% of what I want it to be, and that can feel okay to find that pretty regularly, but that could be kind of hard to find right now in Diablo 4, right? And feels almost virtually impossible. You can go through 200 pairs of gloves and not find a perfect pair of gloves, you know, for your class. You know, there's a lot of things that contribute to this. You know, there's the number of different fixes that we have. There is the fact that we don't have a lot of things in place that say like you can't have like multiple skill ranks, you know, on an item. Like right now we allow you to have like, you know, 3 different plus core skill ranks on an item occasionally, and that doesn't really serve anybody. So one of the things we want to think about a lot as we're looking towards 2024, because like you know, it's December, we're looking back at, you know, a year of talking together and, you know, trying to paint a picture of like what we want moving forward for us. You know, we want to be thinking more about like we have plans for solving these kinds of problems. We also see that there's not enough like runway with items either. Like there's a lot more they could be doing for the player when they drop for players. So one of the things we want to think about more as we get into 2024 is having items really be kind of like the start of a journey. So when something drops for you as a player, we want that to be like cool. You want to be able to get this and say, this is awesome. I can't wait to do X, Y, and Z to this and make it like really, really great, right? Like this is the perfect thing that I need for my build. And to feel that you've got more chances like to modify and customize that and really incorporate that into what you want for your particular play style. That's important for like player expression, for build making. It does a lot for just making the game more exciting versus like every single time you're looking for an upgrade, it's only whatever immediately drops in the ground, and I kind of have to make a decision based on that. We want to go a lot further than that, I think, in the future for players. Now, you know, these are the sorts of things I'm talking about are pretty big, right? Like in season 2, we made changes to the resistance system. We made changes to like, you know, vulnerable damage being multiplied, making that additive. I think people that saw, like we made a huge number of changes to the way that stats work and skills and a bunch of other stuff, right? Huge number of changes. And the reason why we did so much of it at once was because many of these things were very interconnected. And trying to improve these systems by doing like one small portion of it can actually make everything worse. Because this is now like almost like a little island of a different idea that's floating out and not integrated properly into everything else in the game, right? So as we think about the sorts of itemization changes we're looking to make, the reward changes we want to make things more exciting for players to chase, and really, again, if Diablo is a game about killing monsters and getting loot, then killing monsters feels pretty good right now. I think that getting loot has places where we can make improvements. You know, we need to make sure that's holding up its end of the bargain, right? But to make the sorts of changes that we're talking about, there's basically a number of other things that are going to need to be adjusted at the same time. So we have plans for a really, really big update for itemization that we want to be able to produce. It's not coming in Season 3. We're looking at Season 4. Where we want to be able to target a lot of these changes to come out kind of en masse. So in Season 3, which we're not talking about today, Season 3 today, but there's still cool stuff that we have coming up. Which we'll talk. I guess we'll talk. Well, yeah, sure. Right. We're about to talk like a tiny bit about Season 3. There's still lots of great feedback that we're getting from players about their experience playing in Season 3 right now.
Yeah, Season 2, yeah.
Yeah, well, sorry, yes. Feedback from Season 2 that we want to be able to try to to incorporate into Season 3.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that we've seen with Season 2, right, is this was you were talking about how we made a lot of changes to itemization. We made a lot of changes to builds.
Yeah.
There were some things that got less powerful, but we really sort of I think we did a great job delivering on some of the stuff we talked about back in Season 1 in terms of making, when we make changes to stats or classes or itemization, that we make sure that we're adding lots of new cool stuff. And I think we plan to continue to do that with Season 3, right? So I think we've talked. I've said on social, like, hey, we're not gonna nerf your builds here throughout Season 2. We were just playing Ball Lightning, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just live here, and we think that's really important because we built Abattoir of Zir based on the balance of the game as it stands in Season 2. But then as you get into Season 2, you can at Season 3. No one's going to say any of the right season numbers today. But as you get into Season 3, you can expect to see some of those balance changes, kind of like what we saw in Season 2, right?
That's right. So we'll change along those lines. We'll be able to talk about those as we get a little bit closer to the Season 3 release date. And there's a bunch of other changes we're making in Season.
Well, there's the one thing about, I know you were talking about with itemization. We're prepping a lot of changes, and we've actually we have talked to at least a group of Diablo partners, content creators already about some of the itemization changes that are going to be coming in Season 4.
That's right.
So they have actually. There are people aware of some of the details and changes that we're actually offering. So, and we're doing that mostly for, we wanted to get some feedback from and bounce like some ideas that we actually had. So we're really looking forward to, actually going through all of that and making sure and refining it a little bit before we actually put it out in front of everyone. And so there will be more news about itemization as we go through Season 3 and into Season 4. Obviously, with the big changes that are going to be coming, but we have been actually talking with a select group of people, with our Diablo partners, our content creators, specifically on that. So, and I wanted to make sure like people weren't thinking we're working within like a box or something like that from that end.
Yeah, like Joe said at BlizzCon, like if end game content is one of our highest priorities, itemization is our highest priority, right? Like we're actively working on these things. It's just they take time because they're expansive. And it's going to be better for the game, bringing these things together into one big release. We're very, very excited about it. It was really fun talking to content creators about some of these plans and getting some of that initial feedback, so that's cool. But like we're in motion, we're working through these things right now. So, but again, that's not all, right? Like, as we look towards Season 3 and talk about like the sorts of things that players are having some difficulties with right now, there's a couple things that got brought up. First is Forgotten Souls.
Yes.
Yeah, it's obviously we see that players are having a tougher time getting Forgotten Souls in Diablo 4 and Season 2, relative to other points in time. One of the things that we're doing based upon that feedback and feedback about Helltide is actually increasing the Helltide uptime. So basically, Helltide's going to be up every hour for about 55 minutes. It's going to be like a 5-minute break, and then it's going to come back up again. You don't run through again. Yeah. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to farm those Forgotten Souls up when you're looking for them.
Yeah, we really saw that it worked well with Blood Harvest, and it's something we wanted to bring over to Helltide. I think there are more lessons from Blood Harvest that we can incorporate, but this was one that we thought was really important to get in for Season 3.
Yeah, and this is just part of like the things we learn through seasons that players really enjoy, and it helps us make the game better. There's even like the idea that from Season 1 to Season 2, where we brought Malignant Powers kind of back in those unique rings that we announced at BlizzCon and are obviously now out now. Blood Harvest has taught us a lot about players' expectations of like what they're looking for when it comes to like things like Helltide as well. So it's just some of these learnings that we continuously apply to the game, which has been really great.
Yeah, and I want to talk about another thing that we saw in Season 2 that I've sort of been talking about as the 925 problem.
Oh, sure.
Basically, when you first get access to World Tier 4, you can start getting the highest eye power loot immediately from world bosses and from Duriel if someone carries you through Duriel. And that Duriel totally makes sense. It's a super hard encounter. It's a farming encounter, right? It's level 100. The world bosses probably shouldn't have a guaranteed chance to drop 925, not because we hate having players have good loot, just because, when I was playing through it, I was, 72, and all my gear was 925 at that point. And I felt like, where am I going to go from here? Now, it wasn't all, I had a bunch of garbage affixes, right, like Joe was talking about. But there's another part of this problem, which is that as you get up toward close to 100 and reach 100, it feels like there isn't enough variety in places where you can get 925 gear reliably. Like it can drop from Varshan, but it's a very small chance. It can drop from stuff like Beast and Ice. And so it feels like, things like turning in Obels, turning in Whispers, doing some of those other ladder bosses, and even in some cases, some of the Nightmare Dungeon content. It can feel like, well, I guess I'm just supposed to do Duriel and maybe do the world bosses when they come up.
Yeah, it's not consistent enough from other sources that aren't Duriel and aren't the world bosses. So we love that you want to go farm Duriel for urban uniques and for unique items. We like the idea that you want to go hit world boss when it's up, and that's fun. But it doesn't feel good if those are the only two ways for you to really adequately find these kinds of rewards. So there's going to be a balance there. We're going to be certainly evaluating that to make sure that it feels like it's a little easier to find 925s in other top eye power items, in other content channels throughout the game.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have some changes coming with Season 3 to based off of feedback that we've gotten from players with Season 2, things around Hell Tide, things around the 925, the eye level 925 items specifically. So, but yeah, great to hear. Lots of changes coming up. And of course, Season 4, we have some big changes for itemization that are along the road. So I know we want to jump into Q&A now. Because and this is an opportunity for people in chat to kind of jump in and ask their questions.
I'm so sorry, Adam, for ruining this transition. So I guess one last thing on itemization. So part of all of this is trying to find more ways to. What's this?
I love the lower third.
Oh, we went back?
No. Back to itemization.
Sorry. As it should be.
Okay. Yeah. So part of all of this is trying to find more ways to communicate, different ways to communicate the what our intentions are, what our plans are. Try and check them against the views of the community. We don't want to overpromise, underdeliver. We want to make sure that we're really happy with the plans. So we're going through this. We're going to continue to try to provide as much detail as we can as we go. This isn't about kind of creating a grand reveal. That's not the point.
Right.
We want to manage expectations and also make sure that we're really, really happy with what we have, so that when we deliver to players, to be excited about it. So when we're ready to talk more about these things leading into Season 4, we're gonna make sure that we do a whole stream about these changes.
It's more about getting it right than keeping it secret.
It's
not about.
Exactly. And then just goes back to why we've already started talking to even just some of our Diablo partners, our content creators, a little bit about it, just to make sure that we're not working within a box where we're trying to get this right and show it to everyone. So all right, so Q&A. This again, I'll do my preamble again. This is a good opportunity for people in Twitch chat to be able to drop in questions. I know chat's moving quickly, but we have our community team is actually in there. Props to Lisa Casey in there right now and pulling specific questions for Q&A. I'm watching Rich. By the way, no one sees this. We have a whiteboard in here. Rich is Midwinter Blight. This is a question that a lot of people have been asking. It ends on January 2nd.
Right.
So people who are asking in chat, Midwinter Blight goes through January 2nd, so everyone is aware of that. And then Abattoir Azir actually goes nearly to the end of the season.
That's right.
So players can check out Abattoir Azir almost all the way through the end of Season 2. Good reminders on these end dates. I will say that there's a question, before we jump into questions from chat, there was a question that we've been getting a lot online from console players specifically related to gold trading that I do want to actually address as well.
Oh, yeah.
People have sent me videos, and I totally understand. It has become very, very tedious to actually trade gold. And since gold accumulation has actually grown within Season 2. It's become very tedious as a console player to trade gold using the UI and the user interface within the game.
There's been some gold inflation in Season 2.
Exactly.
We know.
And I know they have to like manually scroll their gold, and it can be a little difficult. I will say that is being addressed, and the team is working on a fix for that. We're hoping that will be in for Season 3.
Yep.
So players on console will get a little bit more, I guess, of a relief during that specific point.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier to put in, 100 million, a billion gold, whatever you want to put it.
Exactly. So I will jump into questions here. We have Power Pig. Why is Abattoir of Zir considered a seasonal event and not normal content?
Yeah, because we want it to go away at the end of the season. That's why. So because, as I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier, but like the Abattoir of Zir is a piece of content. We're putting it out there, and we really want to see how players interact with it. We want to see what people like about it, what they don't like about it. We want to be able to take that feedback and incorporate that into more things that we do.
Yeah.
We are going to be looking for more like, we say things like, seasonal and evergreen. We are looking for more evergreen pieces of endgame content for players to engage with and just kind of continue to level up, the base Diablo 4 experience, particularly in that World Tier 4 environment. But we want to be able to do that in a way that is, that is intentional, right? So
yeah. I think you were saying earlier we want to make more content like this, but with Abattoir of Zir, this is the first of its kind. This is the first time we've done something like this, and so I think we're going to learn some stuff from it.
Yeah, we intend to learn some stuff from it.
Question from Breezy Seashore regarding Abattoir Zir. Will we get any sigils or sigil powder from Abattoir Zir dungeons?
Abattoir of Zir runs do drop sigil at the end, but you don't get sigil drops as part of the Abattoir of Zir runs.
Perfect. All right. And then I guess this is kind of similar to a question that you guys, the first question, which is from Mr. Beefcakes Gaming, saying, are we getting some sort of variation of this mode in future seasons? Are there like more big plans related to endgame beyond Abattoir of Zir for D4?
Yeah, I mean, in Season 3, we know that we're going to be launching the Gauntlet and the leaderboard systems and trials. So like we're going to have some endgame content there. We are looking at more content just like this, and we will be releasing it as well. During the course, we're talking about some ideas potentially for Season 3. We're talking about things we want to do in Season 4. So we are working through all of that right now. But yes, you will see more content like this in the future.
Yeah, and jump into Abattoir next week and play it and tell us about it.
Yeah.
Like, if you love it, then tell us, and we're going to make more of that.
Yeah.
Question from Rimas. This is where I
This
struggle.
is like a year of this.
Yeah,
Of Adam saying a name with an
y'all
upward
just need to
inflection
have
at the end of
easier
the name.
Twitch names. Like mine's Pez Radar. It's like so simple. Come on, everyone.
Everybody can be as clever as you with Pez Radar.
I know, so clever. I took a popular candy and mixed it in with the word radar, everyone. So Rima says, any news on a loot filter? Any plans for that? Things like that? This is a popular question we tend to get quite often, so.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you can answer too. I think we answered, we had a question like this at BlizzCon.
Yes.
And what I said, which continues to be true, is that we think that being able to filter your loot efficiently is a baseline part that should be part of all ARPGs, including Diablo 4. Some of the changes that we're planning coming up for itemization in Season 4, I think will help with that. We're going to look at those and look at the in the context of a loot filter as well. Like we're certainly not against adding a loot filter, and it's something that we're looking at alongside the changes that we're making. But the changes to itemization are so significant that if we added a loot filter today, it wouldn't work after we changed them.
Yeah, there's going to be significant changes. So, and I call that like some of the problems, the big problems that we see right now in itemization, largely, a lot of it comes down to being able to parse all this loot that you're collecting. And then like the general sense that like some affixes are just for nobody. Like they're not really good for anybody. Nobody really wants to try and buff duration. Right. Nobody really wants, it's not, I shouldn't say no one really wants 3 or 4 resists on an item, but like there are some people that want 3 or 4 resists on an item. We're probably not going to do a lot of that in the future. There's more things we're doing to make it just easier to parse item to item. the sorts of improvements and benefits and make it more exciting for players.
Question from It's Doffy. Are there plans for more Butcher-style bosses like Bloodseekers? Would love more types of these encounters, especially maybe during world bosses. That'd be crazy. But yeah, having like 4 butchers spawn in the middle of a world boss, that'd be fun.
It's just a different kind of world boss at that point.
Exactly. But yeah, any plans for like, I guess that it's that surprise type of element with enemies that come in.
Yeah, we love that the gameplay that we're getting from Bloodseekers, like dropping into dungeons occasionally. I think you see even just like the fights at the end of the Abattoir of Zir runs are already pretty fun because you don't really know what combination of affixes and Bloodseeker classes you're going to get when you kind of wrap things up. Looking for more interruption, disruptive content like that, that kind of creates these bolts of excitement when you're going through like a content piece that you think you might already know. I think is really cool.
Yeah, so you mentioned world bosses, and I was killing Treasure Beast last week, and when you stagger Treasure Beast, you can actually get one of those little treasure goblins that pops out. But his loot isn't very good, so we're going to fix that. So
there we go.
Not exactly.
Not exactly that.
But
Joe had that experience and wants to let everyone know.
Look, I got 1 rawhide and 300 gold.
Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
A lot of people are going like Treasure Beast. What's that? That we tend to use more internal names prior to when we actually develop real names.
The world boss with the big chest full of gold.
Exactly. So ignore our internal. Hey guys.
That was his internal.
Yeah, or utilize it and confuse everyone like we did.
Exactly. You guys, I know that. We've gotten questions about, we still get questions. We're still getting questions because people didn't see the beginning of the stream. We do want to confirm that we did talk about and address the questions we've been seeing a lot in the community related to pay for power that have been swirling around. People talking about, are you guys planning on adding pay for power in Diablo 4? And I know that we talked about it in the beginning. We have confirmed that we are not planning on adding pay for power in Diablo 4. So I just want to reiterate that now because there's a lot of people who probably missed the beginning of the stream. I do want to just readdress that there are no plans for that.
Again, we have no plans to add pay for power to Diablo 4.
Yes, everyone who's sending me posts on X.
On X.
I'm never going to stop making jokes about this. I love that. I love it so much. Everyone who keeps sending me posts on X, like we get it. We still do not. The thing is, it's still true. There's no plans to sell power in Diablo 4.
Yeah. Cool. A question related to actually color palettes, because we've been seeing a lot of like customization and everything. This is from Comfortably Dumb. When are we getting more color palettes for transmogs? Also, pink is a color. They want to make sure people are aware that pink is a color and they would like pink.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, we don't get enough feedback on this, I think. I think that there's a lot of cool ways to customize your pigments in the wardrobe, and that there are a lot more things we could do there, both in terms of color palettes and other things that you could potentially color too.
Awesome. Skulm TV asks, any plans to rework some skills or abilities? Like the Necromancer could really use some movement speed or skill abilities to help out with some of their movement issues that they're having right now.
Yeah, I think Adam Jax has been on stream before. We've talked about the Necromancer specifically not having a lot of extra movement speed ability or like agility style abilities like that. There is room for making these sorts of adjustments over time. There's not an immediate plan in terms of in season 3 we're going to do X. We don't have that. But we are trying to make sure that as we continue to release new seasons, make more unique items, make more legendary powers, that we're thinking about the ways that players can use them to kind of augment and help parts of their class. We hear very frequently Sork has a really tough time dropping vulnerable on creatures, so everybody runs Frost Nova. We understand. There's things we have plans for, but addressing these kinds of concerns that players have across the board over the course of time. But we're also always looking for opportunities within itemization to also buffet these classes and give them some things, these extra support they need.
Yeah.
I'm going to take one last question here before we kind of close it out. This is BG Fan Germany. Will we ever be able to play the campaign on a higher difficulty?
Yeah, a couple people have asked for this. I think this is an interesting idea. The campaign is something that sort of each time you play narrative content like this, you kind of get diminishing returns on how exciting it is, because some of it is based on surprise and emotional resonance, right? And some of it is like, another reason to ask this question actually could be, hey, I want to fight Andariel more times, right? And so one of the things that was cool to see with season 2 is bringing like Duriel back, previously only part of the campaign, right? It'd be cool to do more stuff like that. But it also could be cool to play the campaign again on higher difficulties. Like, we want to have more ways for players to play the game,
Yeah.
And I will call this out. Davey B mentions Diablo ebooks with Joe Pipora. Reading when?
Yeah.
Joe.
Let me,
Narrator Joe Pipora.
I'll work with my agent, and we'll figure out when I can start doing some voice work on the side.
There we go. Thanks, Davey.
You know
B.
what? I appreciate that people like to hear the sound of my voice as much as I like the sound of my voice. So that's great.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I know, Mr. Joe Shelley, you would like to say a few words to the Diablo community as we wrap up our final stream here for 2023 for Diablo 4. Would you have any parting words?
Yeah, I do. Let me get my hat.
Out.
Got this hat specifically for this.
It's been a long year.
There we go. There
we
it
go.
is. All right. Now I feel more in the holiday spirit.
The fact that you own this hat is just very interesting to me.
But yeah, like we said at the beginning, it's been a pretty exciting year, right? Like, we went from testing the game, doing beta tests, doing open beta, I remember getting my Shava horn and wearing it on my mount everywhere. I still wear it when I show up to World Boss. So
I still wear
everyone
mine.
Can know.
You gotta brag. You gotta be like, as part of that group, that exclusive group.
Getting my wolf pup from participating in the beta. All the changes we were able to make as a consequence of testing in the beta. Playing through the campaign, right? Getting to really have Mephisto as a huge, complex character for the first time in a Diablo game. Finding out what happens with Lilith, and getting to meet all the characters along the way, right? Bring the fish back to that town in Skazglen.
The major beats.
Hey, this
Exactly.
Look, there's one quest designer who's like, I made those.
It's a fun quest.
No, but it was really the campaign in Diablo 4. I think we're really proud of the work that we did there. It was really cool for players to experience that and share in it, and for people who pick up the game now to check it out. Of course, we launched Season 1, and we got tons of feedback on Season 1. I think we learned a lot from that.
We did.
It was a real learning experience for us. Mm-hmm. Those of you who've been with us for a while, I'm sure, had an opportunity to give us a lot of that feedback. But one of the things that I want to point out here is that it's incredibly valuable to us to have players who are passionate about the game, because that's how we get the opportunity to make changes to it, right? Like, when you have a game that no one cares about, you just don't get any feedback about how it can be better. And one of the reasons we've been able to do all the things we've been able to do with changes in Season 2 and all the stuff we've been talking about here today and things that are upcoming for the game is because of all of your feedback. So please continue to give us feedback about all the things that you don't like in the game and all the things you like in the game. We love to hear it, really.
Can I say one thing? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you can.
So it's funny.
Where's
Whenever
your hat?
I don't have a hat. I'm so sorry. This is Joe signed up. One thing. Like, I do get asked this quite a bit. Like, how do you deal with all of this feedback? Sometimes it's like really, really direct. And the way that I sort of think about it is, like, whenever someone sends me a message about Diablo 4, or we're reading a community post, or we're watching a video, whatever it is that we're doing, at any given time. Even when people are like angry or disappointed, like, everybody ultimately, I think there's one kind of like truism here, and that everybody wants Diablo 4 to be good.
Yeah.
They went and played the game hoping for a specific kind of experience, and they want that. So even when people are like pretty, pointed in the ways they're talking about things they feel, it's because they're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of undergirding your point.
Yeah. I think I can't say it enough. Blood Harvest, right? Getting to do Blood Harvest in Season 2, getting six to 8 people together, overloading the zone the zone cap so you can bring 150 lures together, farming that, getting, you know, so many legendaries that you have to stash them in your stash tab and then run portal back so everybody doesn't leave you behind. Getting farm Durio, right? Linking your mats to make sure that you don't have that one person who shows up for the first couple parts of the rotation and then mysteriously vanishes without contributing. Getting to bring holiday events like Midwinter Blight. Like, we're really excited to be able to, you know, we're all going to go away for the holidays. That's why I've got my hat here. And it's cool that when we go away for the holidays, we're doing it with a whole bunch of awesome content, new content for folks to play in Diablo 4. And it was cool to see some of the Steam getting nominated for a couple of awards in a couple of places, some player choice awards. I think players can still vote for that. So, you know, we would love it if you're having fun, if you nominated us for that. And you know, I think this is our first year of this. It's been a long year and an exciting year, and we're really excited for next year and for the future and for season 3 and all the stuff we're bringing there, and itemization stuff coming, and the expansion that we announced at
Vessel of
BlizzCon.
Hatred,
We've got so much stuff to bring to Diablo 4, and so we hope you'll join us for that.
Yeah, so thank you guys again. Thanks to the Diablo community, of course, tuning in through all these campfire chats, all our developer update live streams, and we have a lot more planned for next year. Our next stream is actually going to be live from Albany, New York. We're going to Albany. We actually we have, you know, of course, locations with multiple teams here working on Diablo 4, and we have a studio up in Albany that will be ready for season 3 for a reveal. So we'll have a developer update live stream then, and we're looking forward to going live from there and checking out season 3 and revealing more information about it next time you guys see us on stream. Before we do head off, of course, we want to remind people about some other Diablo activities that are also going on during the holiday season. And we have, like, D2R, we are bringing back the 22 Nights of Terror that was introduced last year, so players will be able to actually experience that. D3, Season 30 PTR, notes go live tomorrow for that. So people will be able to see some of the balance changes that are coming in Season 30 for Diablo 3, and we'll have information about when that PTR is actually going to start. And of course, Dark Neos Tristram, which is a very popular event that happens every single year, will be happening for D3 again, so players can actually partake in that. And for Diablo Immortal, we have a huge update. It's actually probably our largest update since the Blood Knight, which is the Splinter Souls update, which will be coming on December 14th. So lots of Diablo activities throughout the holiday. Again, thank you to the whole entire Diablo community on behalf of the Diablo dev teams here. We're looking forward to our holiday break, and we're hoping you guys enjoy your holiday break with Diablo. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.